Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And of course, you're checking out this action here, this podcast on the Believe Network. By the way, for those of you who are into what's going on with the roster and camp, Travis D. Holmes continuing to do things for Big Cat Country. Make sure you check out the pod feed for all that. So you got a bell off the bat, sir. But let's not forget our guest today, the very esteemed Dave Bearman of Betting with Bearman. I see, and I even said it right, Dave, and I almost stuttered into Bearman just in general. This is my fault for having my frosty adult beverage ready. That's on me. I apologize in advance. But for those of you who partake of the gaming, there are other places where I've heard this referred to as degeneracy. I don't say that, but others do. That's their problem. Dave, welcome in. First of all, I got to leave with that. Thank you for finding time. And we touched on some betting elements earlier, and I probably sounded severely ignorant. And this is why I'm glad you're here to help save the day. And I'm going to do the one that overall, were I a betting man, I think I would participate in, just because it's one of those things I could watch all year. I'd have the most fun and have the most anxiety for at the same time. And as an offensive lineman, the comeback player of the year piece for Trevor Lawrence. We've talked about it a lot here on this show. I feel like if you were going to find action there for him to be the comeback player of the year, that's a good place to start. I'm seeing plus 500 on FanDuel. How do you feel about that in particular, Dave?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Love being on with you guys. First of hopefully many. We'll be talking to the betting. And as for people who use the degenerate word, I would ask you how many lottery tickets you bought last time you were at the gas station. Same thing. You put money out there, but at least we're going to try to make you smarter. You can't do that with lottery tickets. So as far as comeback player of the year, listen, he's fourth in the odds behind Aiden Hutchinson, Dak, and Christian McCaffrey. And listen, I think it's Aiden Hutchinson's to lose. If he suits up, top 5 in sacks like he's always been, he's comeback player of the year, bar none. This isn't a situation where you got a player who died on the field and came back, or a quarterback who took a team from nowhere to the playoffs like Joe Flacco did. This is a situation where Aiden Hutchinson is one of the best players in the game, got injured. If he plays well again, he's comeback player of the year. But if it's not him, I would throw Lawrence in there with the rest of them. I think him and Dak absolutely could either way. Christian McCaffrey, I don't think he can stay healthy enough to win comeback player of the year. So I actually don't mind Lawrence's odds. They're longer than Dak's, which means you're getting better odds. And listen, both of them are going to have comeback years. It's just a matter of which team does better. I think both teams will end up with about the same record. I just think it's Aiden Hutchinson's to lose, but I think Trevor's right there with the others.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking to the Duval Devout, obviously they have their own issues with Aiden Hutchinson. You bring them up. Why isn't he picked first? At least Trayvon Walker's fought against that a bit. I'm with you on that concept. And as a guy who, and we've talked about this, me being a twice sufferer of Trent Baalke, also following the 49ers in my spare time, I'm with you. I don't think McCaffrey will have the juice. I think there'll be some issue there too. He won't play quite enough games. And you're asking the Jags, you could argue, are on the uptick. We all know the Cowboys are headed in another direction, it would seem. So, yeah, that's why I threw it out there. It felt intelligent to me. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what
it's not the worst bet. You're getting decent odds compared to the other guys on the board. It's just he's going to have to play all year. He's going to have to make a run at the playoffs and put himself in a position where he does more than Dak or more than Christian McCaffrey, and then hope Hutchinson doesn't have the year that everyone expects.
That's hard because it's the comeback player of the year award, and well, just in general, offensive guys get all the glory. Offensive guys get all the glory. Offensive guys get all the girls. Offensive guys get everything. This kind of is what it is. So for Hutch to get the comeback player of the year over a quarterback, for me, that just feels like, man.
I agree with you normally, but you're talking about one of the best defensive players in the league. And I know you go back a couple of years, and as shocked as I've ever been at anything, I was actually at the award ceremony at NFL Honors when Joe Flacco won over DeVar Hamlin, when the guy had died the year before and just all he did was had to play. Do you think he won it? I interviewed Joe Flacco on the red carpet earlier that evening, and he was laughing about even being invited. He's like, there's no way I'm going to win this award. And then he won the award, which speaks to Travis's point about offense versus defense. But there's a big difference between Hamlin and Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, there's some I've heard say that DeMar was lucky to see the field when he did, and I'm with you. You know, just having come back from the dead should matter. But, and Flacco's a humble enough guy. I could see him taking it the way he did for with that. And the next thing I want to jump to quick there too. I feel intelligent about that. I am prepared to be mocked for what. Before we get into the one I'm prepared to be mocked for, let's go a little bit more milk toast, if you will. Travis and I have had the conversations about the over-under for the win total. Obviously, 7.5 is a lot of what you see out there when it comes to that. I'm sticking at a kind of an almost maybe over, but I wouldn't bet it kind of scenario. I don't know where you sit with that particular piece, Dave.
Well, first I want to tell you, at FanDuel, and by the way, FanDuel Sportsbook, we're using all their numbers. You can pick different numbers. Now, the most common number where the juice is even is around 7.5. Over is a little bit more juice than the under. You can bet 5.5. You can bet 9.5. If you really think the Jags are good, and go ahead and bet 10.5, 11.5. The odds will shift with you. As far as 7 is concerned, when I do these win totals, and I love betting win totals, I look first, I test it, and I go win-loss all the way down, and I get a number. Then I will break it down by, all right, here's what I think their division record's going to be. Here's what I think they're going to be versus the NFC West. Here's what I think they're going to be AFC West of the 3 games. I did both scenarios earlier this morning, and I came up with 8 both times. I came up with 8, which surprised me because I didn't think the Jags are an 8-win team. But then I went through their schedule, and I said, all right, 3-3 in the division is not a great division. I think 3-3 is realistic, maybe up to 4. We'll get to that in a minute. You play the NFC West, but you have the advantage of having 1 game in London, Seattle at home at 1 Eastern, which means 10 a.m. Eastern at 10 a.m. local time for Seattle. And I think you can steal 1 or 2 there, probably 1-3 against the West. You do have the AFC West, but you got the Chiefs and the Chargers at home, which helps you, maybe 1-3. And then your other 3 games is the Jets, the Bengals, and the Panthers. I think you go 2-1 there. To me, that's 8 wins. If you go 2-2 versus the NFC West or 4-2 in the division, now you're looking at 9 wins. Now, I'm not saying the Jags are a 9-win team. I think they're 7 or 8. There's a reason why the number's 7.5. The bookmakers aren't dumb, but the ball bounces the right way. I think you can get to 8. There's 8 wins on that schedule. Let me put it that way. Now, the Jags could lose games that they shouldn't lose, whether it's to the Titans or the Jets or the Panthers. And then you're looking at 6, 7 wins. As you're showing, you can do whatever you want with the win totals. But I think 7.5 is a good number. And I've said this on other shows. I take every win total and I rate it from 1 star to 4 star. And I'm looking at the over on the Jags to get to 8 with 2 stars. It means a little bit of confidence, not a lot. But if you force me to pick all 32, which I do at times, I would go towards the over on this one. Little bit of confidence. I just think the schedule lines up. When you go to London, when you don't, having Seattle at home, 1 o'clock, having the Chargers at home, 1 o'clock, you're getting both Western divisions and you're getting them to come to you at 1 o'clock, which to me is still a betting advantage. I love playing that. It's not foolproof or I'd be on a beach somewhere, but having 2 games against relatively good teams in Seattle and the Chargers at home at 1 o'clock can only help you.
Yeah, and you mentioned the London advantage. I think in particular to the Rams being that West Coast team going even further is a great point. When it comes to the Chiefs, though, I will say that's a Monday night game. I don't know if you're one of these dudes that buys history, but for those out there in the Duval Dive, Monday night has not been friendly to the Jaguars of late. Well, I'm sure.
Just Monday. Any primetime game has been kind to the Jaguars in history.
I wasn't going to do it to you like that.
You didn't want to throw the dirt over the grave, but let's be honest, man. We got to be clear what this is.
And we would be talking about a different scenario if they were getting the Rams on the road or the Chiefs on the road or the Chargers at 4 o'clock. Seattle. The schedule is set up in a way that the Jags can pull 8 wins out. I think just the way it's set up helps you. And that's what I do. I do a deep dive, and it's not just win-loss. It's just looking specifically at when they only have 2 true road games in the first 7 weeks of the season. So the Jags have the ability to get off to a good start with only having 2 true road games. The end's a little tough. 6 out of the last 10 are on the road, but you get off to a 4-3, 5-2 start, and who knows, you can get 8, 9 wins.
And that's where this conversation becomes even more interesting, because the hardest section of that schedule for the Jacksonville Jaguars is also the portion of the schedule that's mostly at home. And then the easiest part of the schedule for the Jaguars just happens to be when they're mostly on the road. But again, you're playing teams who you realistically should beat. So then it becomes the conversation of, hey, you just got to beat the best team wins, hopefully, later in the season when you're a little bit more mature since you're such a young football franchise. We'll see. So that's because of that. I kind of have that thought like, all right, I'm with you. I can see that 8 wins. It's the question of whether or not that 8 wins can turn into 10 becomes a real squirrely conversation. That's where the big money is, at least.
Well, and you threw PJ Brown in there claiming he's got 11. I'm not that brave. No, I'm not. Well, and by the way, Dave, I got to give you your props. If you get the allure of Radius, who's one of our biggest fans, it's a good day for you. New guest type, he calls out. By the way, Radius, I believe, is built out of the UK there. So there you go. Thanks for checking in, of course, Radius.
Radius, listen to the Cowboys UK podcast. I was on it on Saturday morning. So I'm big in the UK now. Ding.
Hey, listen, I make my appearances with the Irish NFL show as well. Colin Cronin and those guys, they dig it.
Interesting.
I didn't even knock them.
RPR is asking. He's coming. He's circling back to your Aiden Hutchinson conversation or your Aiden Hutchinson expectations for the comeback player of the year. Basically asking why is there so much expectation that Hutchinson would continue his pressures and sacks at the same rate he did in the 5-game stretch. PR are always tricky.
Pass rushers.
Pass rushers are always.
It's the trenches. That's not your house. I get it, Travis.
And we don't. I mean, he may not do it at that same rate, but there's a reason why he's favored to win the award. He's a guy that was on pace to win Rookie of the Year last year and Defensive Player of the Year he was up for as well. It's just keep in mind with these awards, they're also voted on. I think people forget the fact we had an entire MVP discussion on a different podcast, and I had to remind people, listen. This is stuff that's voted on. It's not just who had the best stats. Like, why did Josh Allen had perfect numbers last year to win the MVP, not taking it away from him. Lamar Jackson should have won that MVP, but he won it the year before, and the voters kind of shifted that way. So you're putting money on what somebody is voting. Aiden Hutchinson, very popular. People love the pick. They love the Lions, yada, yada, yada. If he plays at the rate he did last year, he'll win the award.
See,
so
and
is there an argument to be made? Because people do love the Lions. I'm actually with you, and it stinks to say because I don't even want to like the Lions, and I like the Lions. Like I'm being real about this. Like I don't want to like the Lions because I lived up in near Detroit for 6 years, and I have a lot of people I would love to see miserable right now just in supporting that team. And yet
Campbell, Travis, come on now.
Hey man, I don't like all the bite kneecaps and everything else, but game recognized game, and I like the way they built the team. I couldn't hate him even though I wanted to. And I say all that to say, all right. I get why people love them, but is there an argument to be made that the Jaguars, if they did come from rags to riches and make that, this look like a really dang solid, really dominant, like playoff team, and whether or not they win in the playoffs or whatever else, but just make it into the wild card, giving someone a scare, giving someone a fright in this wild card or the second round of the playoffs, could there be an argument that they could be the quote unquote new darlings, the new Detroit Lions, and all of a sudden then you're having the same conversation with Trevor Lawrence in that position? Whereas you have Hutchinson on the other side.
I think for awards like MVP, yes. Comeback Player of the Year is, I don't know. It's the one award nobody can figure out nobody really knows what the standards are for Comeback Player of the Year. Because it changes all the time. It depends on how the Jags do it. If they run away with the division and they win 12 games and Trevor Lawrence has somewhat MVP numbers, and he's Comeback Player of the Year. If they get in because they're in a crappy division and they win 9 games, and the award, they vote on it as soon as the regular season is over. So it won't matter how many playoff games. But it's there for him because they did so bad last year. But this award is more player-oriented than team-oriented. It's almost like you know who it's going to get when the season starts. Like, I don't know, like Aaron Rodgers, all he had to do was step on the field and he was going to be the favorite to win the award because he played 4 plays the year before. Just
true.
That's legitimate. So see, I'm glad you posed the question the way you did, Travis, because this is how I know, Dave, that he's a professional at being a host and he's a buddy of mine. He set me up to bring us to the place where you might mock me the most. And in my defense, Dave, The episode in question was the grab bag we did a number of months ago, and we were asked by you'll remind me later, I think, Travis.
Waifu on the Jaguars Discord.
There we go. Asked what was, and I'm going to air quote this, your crackheadiest take for the Jags' upcoming season. I said they could win the AFC South as a competitive team. They could win the AFC South. Now, regardless of my crackheadiness, what does Vegas think of that eventuality?
So the Jags, the line has actually shifted in the last week, because when I did a podcast for the Titans earlier, they were plus 320 tied with the Colts as the second favorite behind the Texans at plus 110. They've actually moved ahead of the Colts at plus 290, Colts 320, Titans 700. So it's not out of the realm. Vegas is like plus 290. 3-1's not bad. It's the second best odds in the division. So the question I want to pose to you guys, comparing second place teams in the odds across the rest of the landscape of the NFL as to if you want to play the plus 290 to win. I'm going to throw out the NFC West for a minute because I think the odds are wrong in the NFC West. I think the Rams should be favored. I love the Rams to win the division, and they're not. They're the second favorite. So I'm going to take that out because I'm biased towards that one. To me, that's the best second place team. I think they're the first place team. Would you rather have the Jags win the AFC at 290, Bengals win the North at 260, Chargers or Broncos to win the West and knock off the Chiefs at 300? These are all around the same. Commanders to knock off the Eagles at 210. Packers and Vikings are both 250 to knock off the Lions. Falcons 220 to knock off the Bucks. Skipping the AFC East and the NFC West for a minute because AFC East, they're 400-500. No one's beating them, the Bills. Which of those teams would you rather have, all things being equal? You could make a case for the Jags. You absolutely could, because who are they knocking off? They're knocking off the Texans, who are by far one of the weakest division leaders, because I ain't taking the Bengals over the Ravens or the Chargers over the Chiefs or the Commanders over the Eagles or Packers over the Lions. If you're looking at what second place team you want to put your money on, taking the Rams out of the equation because I think that's mispriced.
I agree with
you. The Jags at 290 are not a bad bet to win that division. It's not as crackheadedness or whatever word that is that you use. It's actually a good value bet when you compare. Like, would you rather have the Jags win the South? Yeah. Or do you think the Broncos are going to knock off the Chiefs in the West? You would take the Jags, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think that's the easiest, cleanest, like direct path to kind of getting your money. But also the fact that if you just look through the history of the AFC South, most of the time, outside of like the Peyton Manning years, the AFC South would go every other year with the new, conference champion, and then the Texans happened to win it twice in a row these past 2 years. But they felt like this because everyone else was bad. Yeah, right. They didn't look good doing it. They just did it, and it was kind of one of those situations. So I can absolutely see a future where the Jaguars can end up just, or even I say the Jaguars, and I'm like crazy because there's even a non-zero chance that somehow, some way, Anthony Richardson knows how to throw a slant. And the Colts.
I watched him in college. No way. And if you look at the division over, I did podcast after podcast after podcast as a Florida Gator graduate, not understanding why people thought he was a top 5 pick, and I've been right all along. Oh yeah. So
I'm agreeing with you.
I also went to the Colts Dolphins game last year, and I've been to 300 NFL games. It was by far the worst one I've ever been to between those two. It's Snoop Hundley and Tim Boyle and Anthony Richardson. It's like I wanted to throw my 10-year-old out there to throw some balls. He would have been better. But you look at the AFC South, and like the Texans are the favorite, but they lost their entire offensive line. I'm not sold on them. Colts, you just mentioned Anthony Richardson. If it's Daniel Jones, whatever.
Yeah.
Titans have some work to do. I think they'll be good, but not yet. Again, I'm not advocating that the Jaguars are the play here, but compared to other teams in second place in the odds, it's not a bad play. And by the way, I did the same exercise with the Titans guys, saying that, again, not telling you to pick it, but the Titans at 7-1 compared to who's the team most likely to go worst to first. It ain't the Jets in the AFC East. It ain't the Giants. It ain't the Saints. Like, would you rather have the Titans at 7-1 or the Bears at 6-1? And I'm like, I'd rather have the Titans. That just tells you how, I'm going to say it, how crappy the AFC South is. anybody can win that division, and you're getting the odds that show it as well.
Interesting. Man.
You know how I know you're one of my favorite guests already, Dave? You've agreed with a lot of things I've already said. This is awesome.
And this wasn't pre-planned at all. We've never met until 2 minutes before the podcast started.
Correct. That's right.
What I mean, I'm crazy because I felt better about the Bears. Well, taking them out of their conference, I feel better about the team, the Bears, than I do about the team, the Titans.
Sure,
but winning that division. That's not.
I mean, the Bears are the better team compared to the Titans, and that wasn't the question. Because do you think the Bears are going to win the toughest division in football, or do you think the Titans are going to win the worst division in football, or second worst, depending on how you feel about the Falcons and Bucks?
The Bucks are solid. I feel confident, more confident than most of my friends in Atlanta as far as the Falcons are concerned. But I know I'm on a ledge on that one.
And they're there. And listen, I picked the Falcons to win that division last year. I gave that out on a whole bunch of shows, and they beat the Bucks twice and still didn't win the division. But that's betting for you. Listen, there's a difference between what you think's going to happen and where the value is. I don't think the Jags win the division, but I think the value at 290, 300 is actually pretty good. And if I'm putting together maybe a division parlay that I want to throw a little dart out there and hope I hit, I'm not going to throw the Texans in it. There's no value in that. I'm just not. Just like you don't throw the Bills in it, you just skip that whole division whatsoever. But and it also brings back some PTSD. I had a 6-division parlay 2 years ago, and the only one I missed was the Jags winning the AFC South. And you know how that season ended. They had that wrapped up and lost the last X number of games. But neither here nor there.
No, David, why would you bet on the Jaguars? Like, you got to know better than this.
they also had the division lead and lost the last 7 games of the season.
They did. I know the hurt. I understand.
That was the hurt. The hurt was the only one I lost that cost me significant money. Was a team that lost the last 7 games of the season. So
yeah.
I believe a wise man told me that's Jaguars. A wise man told me that's betting for you, not just a short time ago here on the Duval Dive. Right?
I read something on Twitter X this morning from some handle with betting, asked for what your worst beat of all time was, and we don't have enough time in this podcast, but I'm just going to tell you, it involved the Jaguars in 2003, and we just. I won't sleep tonight if I repeat it on air, but the Jags seem to sneak into my bad betting history stuff. So
interesting. So this was a fun one for me because I had a question that I kind of wanted to present to the class. Is I think it's wild, pretty wild that the Jaguar that the current odds for Trevor Lawrence to win the MVP on FanDuel Sportsbook is plus 4,500, which they have, and I know that's obviously I'm not advocating that Trevor Lawrence is going to win the MVP. My overall
there's no
point
disrespect here. That's what he said.
My overall point is you have also similar odds that the Jacksonville Jaguars will go plus 4,000. That the Jaguars will be 6-0 in the AFC South in regular season games, and also similar odds that the Jaguars will score a touchdown and a field goal in every regular season game in this Liam Cohen offense. So you mean to tell me I can bet that the Trevor Lawrence could win the MVP or go 6-0 in the AFC South, which we've established is one of the weakest divisions in football, or the Jaguars score a touchdown and a field goal in every regular season game and have very similar odds?
I would put Lawrence third of those 3 bets, by the way. I did not have Trevor Lawrence MVP discussion on my bingo card when I woke up this morning.
I just thought those odds are crazy, but also like I know it's the field goal, the touchdowns is probably not even the most difficult part of this. Jaguar scoring a touchdown and a field goal in every regular season game is truly the field goals.
Are you doing it again? Are you doing more Cam Little disrespect on this pod, Travis Holmes?
I would bet the Jaguars to go 6-0 in the division 7 out of 7 times and twice on Sunday before I picked Trevor Lawrence to win the MVP.
Well, there you go. He just looked right past Cam Little disrespect and just told you what it is. I like it.
Hey, Cam had 19 field goals last year, but in this Liam Cohen offense, I just see them driving more. I figure like he's probably going to have a lot of opportunities, but maybe they'll do better at scoring touchdowns and there'll be less field goal opportunities. I just thought these were crazy odds.
I give credit to FanDuel. This is the third consecutive podcast I've done where getting a field goal in all 17 games has been brought up. You guys love it. FanDuel is doing their job. They're making sucker bet after sucker bet after sucker bet. Go ahead. Bet it.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Well, Cam Little had 19 field goals last year. So obviously you're not realistically going to get a field goal in every game unless you're just an offense that is just dominant. And then maybe you're too dominant in one game and you get all touchdowns and you still just your bet's gone. But it's some great odds for it though.
Before I bet Trevor Lawrence to win MVP, I might go and put my money in my fireplace before I bet Trevor Lawrence.
Well, I think the biggest reason for this particular sentiment actually has to do with the next question. And the thing that I was looking most forward to putting before you, and basically, well, before you mostly because you're here, but I want to hear from the betting public at large too. How do you guys in general account for number 12? How do you account for Travis Hunter in this world?
I'm telling you, I've been at this a long time and I've never seen stuff like this because we haven't seen stuff like this in this era. Sure, you had Dion 2-3 decades ago before legalized betting, but FanDuel has an entire market of Travis Hunter props. And listen, it's well-deserved because he's going to play both sides of the ball. Do I think he's going to win the offensive and defensive rookie of the year at the same time? No. If you think he is, you're going to make a lot of money doing that. You can see when you're putting up there right now, there are tons of Travis Hunter prop bets out there. And I can tell you the one that I like the best is the 75 catches and 2 interceptions for the season. I think he'll get 2 interceptions easily. His cornerback will do that by accident. And 75 catches is not that much, assuming your MVP Trevor Lawrence plays all 17 games. I think 75 catches is not a lot anymore, especially for a guy that is electric with the ball. Now, you're only getting plus 250 odds, but it's about the same as the Jags winning the division. I find it a lot more likely that Travis Hunter is going to get 75 catches and 2 picks. There are a lot of different props. Can he get 1,000 yards? I think he can. Will he have 5 offensive touchdowns and 1 defensive touchdown? Maybe. If you're betting 1 touchdown on each side of the ball in debut, I'll say you a bridge to Alaska. But there are a whole bunch of different props you can do. And this is great. It's phenomenal. Like when we saw what Travis Hunter was doing at Colorado, part of me in the back of my head said, I can't wait to see this in the NFL from a betting perspective because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen a guy play both sides of the balls like this in 20-something years and not in what I would call the legalized betting era.
Well, and we had talked a bit before we got on the air, Dave, and you had consulted us a bit with a list of some of these pieces that were so very rare that you hadn't seen. And the one that jumps off the page to me, and listen, I've been right as much as I have been. I'm okay taking my shots. Maybe I'm getting overconfident in how things have gone. Maybe that's it. But I love the 750 yards and 5 interceptions line because I feel like they're going to test Travis. They'll be like, oh, well, he has to get tired at some point, and then he makes them pay for it. And considering the fact that he has De'Ami Brown doing probably going to do a lot of stuff with screens, Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side, they're going to get the kid on a lot of lottery ticket balls down the field. I'm looking forward to what I'm calling the opposite of a red zone package, Dave, the fly zone package, where you're sending Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, and De'Ami Brown down the field all consecutively. And if it all doesn't work out, you have a Travis Etienne underneath. With all of those things being considered, I see the 750 yards and 5 interceptions being incredibly, it's more fun. It's not as safe as the others, but I like it.
I would take that at 17-1 long before I took 1 touchdown on each side for 16-1 in the opener. That's just one touchdown. That doesn't mean you can't do it. You got to give me 50-1 on that one. I actually don't mind the 750 and 5. I think getting 5 interceptions is going to be the toughest part. I'm not saying he won't do it. It's just they got to target him enough times. He's got to be in the right spot. He's got to learn the defenses, and it's absolutely possible. You're talking about the number 2 overall pick in the draft. There's no reason why he couldn't do that. And 17-1 sounds good to me.
And it's crazy because I feel like I'm just out on the ledge on this one, and maybe I'm just too confident in this young man's talent, but I'm shocked that everybody just skimmed over that 12-1 Travis Hunter to get 5 regular season offensive touchdowns and 1 regular season defensive touchdown. A guy who we know is a wide receiver, who we know is dangerous with his hands on the ball, and you telling me that you believe he's going to get at least 2, maybe 3 interceptions, and you think he might not return one of those as a touchdown? I think that's for 1,200.
I think he can do it. I try, and you'll see the ones I picked were 75-2, and it's hard for me to pick touchdown ones because they're so fluky. The guy could have 1,500 yards and 115 catches and still only have 2 touchdowns. Touchdowns,
right?
It's like wins in baseball. They're just fluky. Wins for pitchers in baseball. You have to be in the right spot in the right time. Like there are some players that all they do is catch touchdowns, and there are some players that can go get 1,500 yards and 100 catches and not be in the end zone. I mean, we saw it with McBride in Arizona. It took the guy until the last week of the season. They're just fluky, and for me to put it on a rookie to get in there at least 6 times, 5, doesn't mean it's not going to happen, Travis. Like he has the talent to do it, but 5 offensive touchdowns means he's in the game at certain points when they're going to score. That doesn't mean it couldn't be 5 80-yard touchdowns. Is he the go-to guy in the red zone, or are they going to run it, or are they going to throw it to BT? Like, how are they going to do it? Just touchdowns are very, very fluky in betting. Very fluky.
Okay.
See, that's why I went. That's why I went. That's exactly why I went with yards too, Dave. Like I'm in the right demographic to live in a world where Warwick Dunn was a thing, and so too was Mike Allstott.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. So
maybe it's my fantasy football brain, but that's where I immediately go to. I'm like, you mean to tell me I have an offensive player who plays defense? I mean, we consider one of the best offensive players in the NFL draft this past season, and he's on defense, and we're going to give him the ball a few times against guys who aren't paid to tackle on the other side of him. And I'm like, oh, yeah, if you give him the ball, I feel like that one touchdown feels very much possible. That's all.
It's definitely possible. And, I mean, I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying season touchdown props are very difficult to bet. I don't often bet them at all. Now you're talking about basically a parlay one. I mean, the odds are pretty good. But if you were to tell me, if you were to ask me on September 1, give me the list of all your season player props, it'd be very rare to see any touchdown ones on there. They're very, very fluky. And I mean, I loved Jabari Gibbs last year, and David Montgomery stole all the touchdowns. Or 2 years ago with the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert had 19 touchdowns. You just don't know what they're going to do when they get down there.
See, and I felt like I had to go with Dunn and Allstott. How do I forget Sonic and Knuckles? Thank you, Dave. My bad. I don't know. All right. So I don't know. Well, I don't know, Travis. I'll put it this way, Dave. Unless there's some other parting shots you have for places to go, you explained well for me the Travis Hunter conundrum. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what you're looking at with the Jags. You know, if I were to play before the season starts, if you were to say, Dave, give me your favorite plays for the Jaguars, I would say that, you know, I like Travis Hunter plays. I think that's where you go. I may dabble with them to win the division and the over 7.5, but I think the play would be, Travis Hunter.
Well, RPR put out another great question that I don't have an answer to. So I'll lateral this one to you. If the Jaguars defense laterals it to Travis Hunter to return the touchdown, would that work for those prop bets?
Yeah, and whoever scores the touchdown is going to get the credit for that prop bet. So on the flip side, if Travis Hunter intercepts it and flips it to someone else, it would be that other person. The person that gets the INT would get credit for the INT, but Travis would get the touchdown in that scenario. The question that I have to ask FanDuel is it just defense, or is it defense and special teams? I don't know if the Jags are going to put him at a punt returner or kick returner. Probably not. But I don't know if that would count. Fantasy, it does. But yeah, if there's a lateral and he takes it to the house, he would get credit for the touchdown.
So, and I was curious, I was going to ask about special teams action for Travis, actually. Now, granted, at this level, I don't think he'll get it, but he did his share in college, you know. But it's I think that would be one of those sucker bets too, as well, if they were
sucker bets. I guess apparently I love sucker bets. This is so obviously gamble at your own risk listening to Travis D. Holmes, but because I'm a defensive guy. I love like anything that's related to the secondary. So you're talking about defensive touchdowns. I'm already all in. I'm imagining Ed Reed in Duval, in a Jacksonville Jaguars uniform.
Travis is lucky that FanDuel does exist in Florida.
That's it. So, final one from Kay Adams. How do you feel about I guess we'll call it the parlay, the package option of the Jaguars and the Patriots, each winning more than 7.5 games, but you've already talked about the Jaguars prospects for that, and the Panthers winning more than 6.5.
I like the Jaguars part of it, but I don't like this bet in totality. Like, I don't understand the Patriots love, and I'm trying to put my bias aside, knowing that I don't like them, that I'm a Dolphins guy, and Patriots give me PTSD. I don't understand how they think this team goes from 3-4 wins. I've seen people put them in the playoffs. I even heard on a 4-letter network this morning that said they think that that's the team that can challenge the Bills in the AFC East. And I'm like, what? Like, give me what you're smoking. Like, I don't understand it. They're going to be better, no doubt. The Patriots in 2025 will be better than 2024. But for whatever reason, the media thinks that Drake May is the second coming of Tom Brady and that Vrabel is Bill Belichick. And, like, all their guys are new. They spent $150 million. Like, they still don't have – Stephon Diggs all of a sudden healed and he's going to be great, and Drake May is Joe Montana. I think they will be better, and I'm not trying to do this from a Dolphins point of view because they very well may be better than the Dolphins. I'm not high on them either. I just don't get the Patriots are going to contend for a wild card. No, I think it's a one-team division. The Bills run away with their AFC East title, and maybe the Dolphins and Patriots battle for a wild card, but I just don't see where the love is coming from. And some people say, they play a last place schedule. Okay, that's 3 games. It's just 3 games. And one of them is versus the Jags. I just don't see the love, but I would not pick that parlay because I don't see them getting 8 wins. If the Patriots get 6, I would say, all right, that's a good season. You improved. You doubled your win total. Congratulations. But 8's a tremendous leap that yes, Vrabel did wonderful things with the Tennessee Titans. He also had Derrick Henry, and he had Ryan Tannehill. He had good players. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Drake May, MVP, who knows? I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is the schedule, but what do I know?
Duval Dave says, James Gladstone said Travis Hunter will change football. He may just change betting and fantasy as well. And
he has already changed betting. We just went the entire segment. He officially has changed betting. He's done something and given us something that I have never seen before in my years of doing this betting stuff, seeing props on two-way players. You just never see it. You've seen stuff with special teams and adding special teams touchdowns to wide receivers, yada, yada, yada. You haven't seen combined touchdowns on offense and defense or 1,000 yards and interceptions. You just don't see it. As for fantasy, I'm not sure we're there yet because unless you're doing IDP fantasy, he doesn't mean anything for you on defense. But that's betting, he's already changed. And listen, I don't know how many more players are out there like Travis Hunter, but I know the books are having some fun with him this year. That's for sure.
Well, I think that's for a lot of people. That's their questions are like, hey, if Travis Hunter scored a special teams touchdown, or if Travis Hunter scored a defensive touchdown, or whatever else, would I get any offensive stats? These are the conversations that these guys are talking about having. Like RPR is saying, their fantasy team is still debating how they're going to score defensive stats.
If you get to pick 6, it's 6 points if you got them, and it's 6 points for the Jags if you got them. And if you happen to have Travis Hunter at wide receiver and the Jags defense, I'm not sure you have a good team, but if you do, that would be 12 points. They're going to have to grade it as, I mean, you've seen it before. We've had offensive players return touchdowns and punts. We've seen that before.
True. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. And Robert is throwing all the shade to you and your dear Dolphins. I'm sorry. Is there an odds on how many concussions for Tua?
Robert, funny guy. I would say no, there are no odds on that. The NFL would absolutely freak out if there was. You want me to set a number? I'll set a number. The number is 0.5 because if he gets a concussion, he's done. That'll be it. He's one more away from his career being over. You won't see more than one. 0.5 is the line, and I pray it's under that. And he doesn't, because I mean that's how that team's going to go. If he plays all 17 games, they're a playoff team. They were 2 years ago when he played all 17 games, and they week 17 they had a game versus the Ravens for the number 1 seed and lost to the Bills at home, lost to the blah 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 blah. But you hope it's 0. Like you know, you don't want to root for injuries. You know, it's bad. Head injuries are bad. We've all had them. That's why we're talking Trevor Lawrence for MVP. We've all had head injuries.
Jeez.
Wow.
And the last thing you want is betting odds on injuries, because then, especially with injuries that you can't really diagnose, like a doctor can't say you have a concussion.
You
want to make sure players don't bet on themselves to get concussions.
No, we've seen it in the National Basketball Association, some of the diciness with player props. You will never, ever, 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 ever times 1,000 ever see betting on injuries in this country unless somebody kidnaps Roger Goodell. So it ain't happening.
There you go. I did not know we would have betting on injuries on the bingo card for today either, but that's it. Robert, I blame you for this one. That's okay. And that's fine.
I think he was just poking the bear, literally.
This is what Robert does, man. He is not
poking a dolphin.
Yes, that's right. Poking the fin, as it were.
Robert's not even the first one today to say that to me. I'm at my kid's 6th grade practice, first one of the year. The kids are in helmets only, and they're like, hey, once we put the pads on, we got to be careful. We don't want to have a Tua. And they did it just because I was standing there with my orange dolphin shoes on. So
the petty is real, Dave. We hear you, buddy. We hear you.
It is.
So, hey, I don't know how I can't find a better way to end the podcast with plenty of pettiness. You got plenty of information. I got a butt ton of validation, so I can thank you for that up front, Dave. Apparently, we agree on a lot of things. But tell the world where you can be found, David Bearman, as you do your things betting.
Ring that bell. At David Bearman, first name, last name, just like that, like the animal Bearman. At David Bearman on Twitter, X. Betting with Bearman podcast, just like you guys have a podcast on Believe Podcast Network, so do I. We'll have one tomorrow, probably drop mid-afternoon, the Betting with Bearman podcast. We're going to talk NFL futures. I can guarantee you that Trevor Lawrence MVP will not be part of that program, but Betting with Bearman podcast on the Believe Podcast Network will drop tomorrow. I'm going to be sending out division by division previews on the podcast in the next couple of weeks. And then the newsletter. You want nonstop betting content? I have a newsletter I publish 3 times a week. Go to bearmanbets.com or go to my Twitter handle and sign up. And the Monday ones are free, and Wednesday and Friday you're helping put food on the table for my children.
There you go. We want that. We want to keep the ice full in the bath too after practice as well, right?
Yes, yes.
As I'm sitting here, I heard them draining the bathtub. So the ice bath from the first tackle practice to the year is done. So I need an ice bath.
Travis D. Holmes, tell the world.
Well, I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes, just like the name, HOLMES. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com, where we will have you guys covered at tomorrow's training camp. If you don't have tickets, they are still available at jaguars.com. Absolutely. So please lock it in. I believe that is the final practice they have on. The final practice is on Wednesday. So you have 2 more opportunities to see these guys before they started locking it up and putting everything behind lock and key and, Fort Knox in the Miller Electric Center. So, yes, it is preseason week 1 with the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday. So, again, these are your last opportunities. So definitely get those tickets. And I will see you guys out on the field tomorrow morning. Mr. Nash, where can you be found?
Of course, I don't have the benefit of being at camp, but what I can tell you I'm looking forward to is that very same preseason game being the focus of the Duval Dive stream proper on Wednesday that you see every week. Make sure you check that out. Of course, Travis doing great work so far. Big Cat Country, podcasting and otherwise coming to from camp. Make sure you follow that. Of course, I'm Kyle Nass, to the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Check out my writing with the Fan First Sports Network, writing for your Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as the Orlando Magic, and of course with the Black and Gold Bannerhead and the Night Shift podcast covering UCF football and basketball. UCF had their player media day. Look out for that stuff dropping here as that comes to pass here. And don't worry, I wasn't going to bring up the Gasparilla Bowl, nor was I going to bring up this past game at Gainesville. I didn't want it to go like that, Dave. It was crazy. But with all that being said,
you guys still celebrating that fake national title from a decade ago, or no?
Did you say fake?
Oh no!
This man say fake. But don't do that. Don't do this, David. Don't do this. We were doing so good, man. No. In the stream. No. Cut the lights off.
Hey, see, I would say that take was cold, but then people would think I'd be making a Frost pun at that point. But anyways, make sure you check that out. blackandgoldbanner.com, Night Shift podcast there as well. And the Bannies dropped there too. Make sure you get those awards from last year's athletic year for all things UCF sports. But until next time, everyone, for David Bearman, which, by the way, sir, if I have anything to say about it, you will be back. Boy, personal champion Travis D. Holmes. Everybody in the comments coming in with the mostly intelligent takes. And, of course, Robert having fun with a Dolphins fan as well. Class dismissed.